Hello and welcome. Many of you have already been here for a little while and hearing us chat. So we're so glad to have you here tonight. I am also going to be reading. I have some notes here prepared. So thank you for joining us tonight for the AIFD Slow Flowers Partner webinar. My name is Renee Tucci, AIFD, and I'm the current president of the AIFD Northeast region. And I am co-hosting tonight's presentation with the lovely Debra Prinzing, and you'll hear more from her in just a moment. A few housekeeping notes. Throughout the next hour, if you have any questions, please drop them into the Q&A box, and we'll do our best to get them answered. If we run out of time, or if I think there's one that's better, just directly with one of our people on the panel, I'll connect you guys after the webinar, and we'll be in touch through email. Some of you have already heard me say this, but full disclosure, this is the first webinar that I'm hosting and running, so I appreciate your grace as I work through managing the chat box, the Q&A, and 7 other panelists. So nothing like diving into the deep end here. So thank you for that. We are recording this webinar and it will be posted tomorrow on the AIFD Northeast YouTube channel, and I plan to send a note to everyone that was registered with the link. So you'll be able to rewatch and share as much as you like. So look forward to that. And okay, we have had a huge response to this event. And myself and our panelists are thrilled about that. I'm happy to see some familiar AIFD family names on the registered list, along with some new friends joining us here. Before we dive into the exciting world of flower farmers, I just want to take 1 minute to tell you all a little bit about AIFD, because I think we have some new folks here that may have not ever heard about it. So those letters stand for the American Institute of Floral Designers, and the mission of AIFD is to advance the art of professional floral design through education, service, and leadership, and to recognize the achievement of excellence in this art form. So if there are any designers joining us here tonight that are looking to increase their education, or perhaps are considering taking the next step towards becoming a member of this incredible organization, please feel free to reach out to myself, Marisa, or Gina afterwards. Like the group of supportive folks that Debra has curated in her Slow Flowers Society, AIFD is filled with some of the most supportive and creative people out there. So you'll hear more about Marisa and Gina, but the 3 of us are representing AIFD tonight. I'm from the Northeast region. We have Marisa from South Central, she's in El Paso, and then Gina's in the Northwest. So we have coast to coast AIFD represented here. And there are 3 other regions as well, but I thought if I brought all 6 of them in that it would just be too much. But if you are interested in AIFD, go ahead and reach out. We're happy to answer any questions. No strings attached, low pressure sitch, I promise. So tonight we're bringing you a program format that has never been done before. I'm coming to you from just outside Philadelphia, and each of us will be interviewing a flower farmer and Slow Flowers member that is local to us. We'll be chatting about how to incorporate locally grown flowers into our work as much and as efficiently as possible while supporting our local farmers. I'm also excited to hear from Amelia later on about her venture with Rooted Farms. Okay, without further ado, let's get into the main event. I'd like to introduce my co-host tonight. Debra Prinzing is a Seattle-based writer, speaker, and leading advocate for American-grown flowers. Through her many Slow Flowers branded projects, including her very popular Slow Flowers podcast, which most of you probably listen to, she has convened a national conversation that stimulates consumers and professionals alike to make conscious choices about their floral products and purchases. At the end of our webinar this evening, Debra, are you ready with your book?
Yes.
We will be giving away a signed copy of her wildly popular book, Slow Flowers Journal Volume 1, so make sure you stay for your chance to win. On a personal note, I just want to thank Cassie from Siebe on this panel here tonight. She did the matchmaking and introduced me to Debra. And as you know, Debra is just a delight, and we are lucky to have her inspire us in this crazy, wonderful industry. So Debra, take it away.
Okay. Oh, Renee, thank you so much. I just feel very welcome, and I feel like we've got a really good group here tonight. And it's really fun to look at the attendees, and I'm recognizing names of AIFD members who I know, and also people in the Slow Flowers community. So I think we've got a good cross section. And I just want to thank AIFD for opening up this panel to a broader audience than just your members. I think that this is the cross-pollination that we all need to do. When I found out that I had almost 10 minutes to chat, I thought, well, let's do a PowerPoint. So I'm going to get that started, and hopefully you can just look at the beautiful photos and not have to look at my face the whole time. And I just have a few slides I want to show. So I can't believe it, but I started the Slow Flowers Society in 2013. Where has the time gone? Our tagline was the conscious choice for buying and sending flowers. I just want to give you a little background on what it is and how all facets of the floral marketplace plug in. First of all, I did borrow heavily from slow food. And if you're an eater and a foodie, you know what slow food means. But many people are, for decades have been focused on where is their food coming from and who grew it. And we're starting to see, especially in the past decade, conscious sourcing of flowers that are grown locally or, in the US. And that consumers and I think the floral marketplace alike are looking at the fact that our purchases have a direct impact on local economies and on the agricultural community. And then from a designer's point of view, I have to mention the seasons and the fact that many of us are trying to design with flowers that are blooming in seasons so that there's a more natural, harmonious representation. And Gina's nodding. I mean, this is something she and I talk about a lot. When it's winter, we have a limited palette, but there's some real raw beauty to that. And, obviously, I always want what's beautiful. So I struggle with the seasonality that many people do, but I think our farmers today are going to talk about why that's so important. And as I said, we follow food. Alice Waters started Chez Panisse almost 50 years ago. So the culinary world has really looked at local sourcing and artisan growing methods long before the flower industry has caught up. But I feel like we are catching up. So what is the Slow Flowers movement? We have a mission, much like AIFD has a mission. Our mission is to inspire the floral industry and its consumers and professionals through outreach and education, highlighting benefits of local, seasonal, and domestic flowers. And is it mainstream? Well, we've been tracking the use of the hashtag Slow Flowers, and in the last 365 days, there have been 67 million social media impressions for the hashtag Slow Flowers. And so when you see that being used, I'm always curious to see what the flowers look like. And of course, I can't, there's no policing at all. I'm just encouraging people to use it because it raises the question about seasonality and about local or domestic flowers. A couple of years ago, I was involved in the Florist Review reader survey. And I just wanted to show this slide from the reader survey with, subscribers saying that they have more farmer florists in their market than ever before, that their customers are interested in locally grown flowers, and that they are changing the way they do business to put more emphasis on local flowers. As you see here, it was 57% of people said that this is moving to the mainstream in their market. And I think this survey was done in 2018. The state of the local flower industry is a snapshot on this screen. I'm not going to read all of it, but I think all of you know that 80% of the flowers sold in the US are imported, and only 20% are domestic. And that can be really discouraging. I feel like that's a battle that when I first started out 10 years ago, I thought I was going to fight. And now I've kind of relaxed and thought my focus is on what I want to support. And I want to support flower farming, sustainable practices, and connecting farmers and florists in their own marketplace. And that's really exciting. So I do think more of that is happening, especially with COVID. Renee and I talked about that a lot in terms of, what's prompting this interest that we're all experiencing. One of the questions I get a lot is like, how do you know that people are interested or that there's more local flowers available? And I do think that one of the best numbers to look at is the USDA survey that is done every 5 years. It's called the Census of Agriculture. And the most recent one was done in 2017. And here's just a screenshot of the report of floriculture and bedding crops. And you see the red highlight there. So from 2012, 5,800 farms reported that they were growing some or all of their acreage in cut flowers. And 5 years later, 6,700 folks identified that they were growing on their farm flowers. And this could be a carrot farmer who's just growing a few zinnias, or it could be an extensive flower farm. So I feel like that number is a positive one. So let's just talk about where our flowers come from. I think we're so lucky we have several flower farmers on the panel today, because I do consider them the rock stars of the floral world. These are a lot of the growers at the Seattle Wholesale Growers Market, and you'll hear from Brad Siebe later, who's the general manager. But I really got into this by meeting farmers and wanting to hear their stories. And through those farmers who are growing beautiful flowers, I met their clients, who are many of the people on our panel today, who are florists, who did sort of adopt this belief that they want to be closer to the flowers that they're designing with. Here's some good friends from the Pacific Northwest. Diane and Dennis on the right own Jello Mold Farm. They're founding members of the Seattle Wholesale Growers Market. And Melissa Fevier on the left is a floral designer who was one of the founding members. She wanted local product in the Seattle market, and she volunteered to help launch so that her shop could have local flowers. Here's some other great people who are just the faces behind the flowers. I think when you get to know flower farmers, you really want them to succeed and you want to give them business. It's part of a conversation Renee and I had recently, that she wants to see them succeed. And so therefore she keeps supporting them with her purchases. So just like florists, flower farmers are all mostly small business owners. There are other channels through which you can find local flowers and that consumers can access them. One is the grocery market. I'll just stop and say that 50% of the flowers sold in the US are sold at the mass market level. And that seems kind of depressing at times, but from my point of view, if consumers can connect with local flowers at the grocery level, then they become excited about supporting local agriculture, and they start even asking where flowers come from when they do make a purchase through a florist. And I don't want to neglect the wholesalers. This is a poster that hangs at Mayash Wholesale Florists. I actually photographed this in the Portland branch, but increasingly the savvy wholesaler is figuring out that their customer, their florist, their wedding and event designer wants to know if there's local product or American grown product. I mentioned the grocery stores, and of course, everyone from Whole Foods to the independent chains are getting involved. There's e-commerce. I wanted to show this slide. Many of you know about Rose Story Farm or have shopped from Rose Story Farm. They were really early adopters in shipping beautiful Old English garden roses mainly to wedding designers coast to coast. They're Slow Flowers members based in Carpinteria, California. And then the Protea store is a consumer-facing online e-commerce store owned by one of the big Protea growers in California, Resendez Brothers Protea growers. And many of you know about them because they sell wholesale to your local, to wholesalers across the country, but they also address consumer demand by selling direct through this e-commerce store. And I will just wrap up. I have one more minute to share this slide. I love this slide. It's the original, Webster's definition of florist, one in the business of raising or selling flowers and ornamental plants. And so many florists have returned to growing and to connecting with farmers. One of our members is in Rhode Island, Mary Kate Canane. She owns the Local Bouquet. Her tagline is American Grown Weddings. She has workshops that take her clients who might be brides or just local garden enthusiasts. She takes them to farms and they do a farming and floral design workshop, which is really fun. And this is another workshop that was done, I think, by Alicia Rico of Bows and Arrows in Marfa, Texas, and she partnered with local farmers. This was a couple years ago. Here's a beautiful bunch of flowers from a local florist, a farmer florist. Sorry, that slide kind of threw me off because I think I exchanged my images, but these are grown by Aisha Lurie, who's a grower in Arizona Patagonia Flower Farm. So there's just so much to be said for combining floral design and growing. This is the last slide I'm going to show you. Some members in Chicago, Molly Colbelt and Heidi Joint. You see on the lower right hand photo, they're in their farming attire and they're growing on land in Wisconsin or maybe Michigan, one of those places. And then in the left, they're in their stylish Main Street flower shop in Chicago, and they're doing it both. So there's just so much going on that we all can plug into, and I'm just excited to hear from the panelists today who have lots more to add.
That was great, Deborah. Thank you.
Okay, so now I'm going to introduce our first team, turning the tables on you, Renee. Renee and Cassie are going to do their Q&A, and then we'll go to the next team. But I would like to first introduce you, Renee. Renee Tucci is a AIFD freelance floral designer and educator from just outside the Philadelphia area, as she said. She's a true floral enthusiast who loves to explore all the nooks and crannies in the floral industry and then share them with everyone who listens. So that's why we're here today. Cassie Plummer is the owner of Siebe, an urban flower farm in Philadelphia. She's been farming and selling wholesale to floral designers for 6 years. Her wholesale business includes a collective of 5 flower farms offering pre-order and in-person shopping through the American Street Flower Market. This is her latest venture to bring more locally grown flowers to more people. So welcome, Renee, and welcome, Cassie, and we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks.
Thank you so much, Deborah. Okay, so Cassie, I'm so glad to have you as my partner here tonight. I am just making sure I'm on the right view here. Hopefully y'all can see me. I feel like I was a little late to the Slow Flowers movement. I just started buying from Cassie last year, and now I'm a new member of the Slow Flowers Society, but Cassie's been doing good work in this area for many years now. And everyone around here knows her, Siebe. She goes by Siebe, right?
Sometimes.
Her flower collection, Siebe. Do you want to just, I know we read your bio, but just for a minute, did you want to explain a little further about how you run your unique cooperative?
Sure. So we grow on about a ½ acre of urban land in Philadelphia. So it was a vacant lot before we started. And I actually started because I stumbled on Deborah's Slow Flower podcast. And so if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here. Yeah, and as we grew, like I knew first off, I just wanted to sell to florists because I wanted that relationship and that continued returning customer and have that connection. So that's how we started our business, selling to florists and offering the wholesale. And we have a online ordering website. We basically try to emulate what florists do on their week-to-week buying. So everything we have photos and all of that people can pre-order from. And then we also, this last year, launched a marketplace where basically my goal is to sell every single stem that I grow and that all the farmers that I work with grow. So we opened up this market so that we would have people could shop in person, because I know everyone's very tactile and very visual. So being able to see flowers in person is really helpful. And then we also just wanted the larger community to be able to shop and experience flowers, especially, and we found with COVID, everyone is really, really wanting to connect with nature and beauty and joy. And so that's, it's been really great to have that outlet, and also to meet more florists and have, just be able to spread the local flower joy that, that we've been working so hard for.
You're doing it. That's awesome. So I just have a few interview questions for you here. What is your one key piece of advice that you like to give retailers when planning their local farm order versus the traditional wholesale order?
Yeah, I think it's hard because we can only predict like 1 week in advance, because Mother Nature is just a beast. She's very lovely, but sometimes she can throw a curveball. And so we don't really we can't promise anything more than a week in advance. So you have to be a little bit flexible and ready, sort of open to what's available. And so I always tell people that, it's hard even if you just dedicate 10% or a certain percentage of your budget for flowers, for local flowers, plan your wholesale order ahead of time, get the majority of it, but then use that 10%, or even if it's like $100 when you're first starting out, or $50, use that to kind of find that special something, and experiment with different flowers and trying to find whatever looks great in the market that week or on the farmer's availability sheet. So it's really just allocating, like starting out slow and allocating a percentage of your budget to local. And then I think that elevates people, helps to elevate and set people apart, because it's what you're inspired by and what looks good and what you already have, and it can just like tie your whole design and your whole plan together.
Yeah, that's really great advice. Start small and get to know it, and then able to work it in more and more. That's great advice. And still shop with our local wholesalers, because we need them.
Sure.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know, I totally get it, because you need to know what you're you need to know you're going to have flowers and what you want, and to fill the majority of your orders. So I get that piece of it. Yeah.
Okay. So how do you connect with local florists, or are you find that they're finding you?
It's a little bit of both. When I first started, I stalked a lot of people that I wanted to work with. So, I mean, I basically looked, on Instagram and finding all the designers in our area, and tried to identify the folks that were using unique and local product, and doing like outreach to them to try to find out what more, to introduce myself and to find out more about what they're looking for and what they're missing in their the flowers that they're currently purchasing. So so I do a lot of just looking for new florists and looking for designers and trying to do outreach and connecting with them. And then it's just sort of word of mouth too. So I think and then we also try to share designs, like through social media. We try to share things that florists are doing and with our flowers. So I think it sort of snowballs from that. So once you start that connection, it just kind of builds and builds and builds.
Yeah, the good word spreads. That's right.
Yeah, definitely.
I see in the chat box someone's asking for your website. So just a note to everyone, when we send the link with the recording, I'll also send everyone's websites and Instagram handles. But Cassie, when you and I are done, if you want to jump in the chat box and throw your website in there, that'd be great too. And just one other question before you and I wrap up. What can retail florists do during your off season to help support local flower farmers?
Yeah, I think this is a hard question, actually, because I know we're all small businesses. So I think, it's harder in the off season for farmers because the revenue stream is a lot lower. But I know, everybody is a small business, and you're always trying to, work on cash flow and that part of things. So I think beyond like, purchasing during the regular season, I think building connections is like the best thing in the off season. Oh, hi, there's my cat. Just working on connections. So I try to meet with my florists during the off season and talk about trends and sort of how can we improve our relationship? What more can we do for them? What flowers would they like to see us grow? And then I think from a designer standpoint, I know a lot of farmers want to learn more about design. So being able to offer ways to collaborate in the off season, or maybe even if it's just freelancing, like if you have some freelancing opportunities where you reach out to your farmer to see if they're interested in doing that kind of work. I think that's a lot of people would be open to that. And and then I think also for me, it's all about building relationships and connections and getting to know each other. So working on that in the off season and during the regular season too is great.
Yeah, you don't really have much time for that during the regular season. I can see why you would do that.
Yeah,
I love that idea of inviting farmers to do some freelance work. How awesome is that in the off season? Great idea. Well, thank you so much, Cassie, for being my partner here this
You're
evening.
welcome.
And if you, like I said, just drop your website in the chat box there. And
Okay.
Deborah, I'm going to toss it back to you.
That was so exciting and so amazing. And since I've been to Philadelphia and, gotten to see some of the goodies that are happening at Jigbee, mainly through photography, it's really exciting to think of Cassie bringing her design talents to freelance for an AIFD member in the off season. But that means you have to get the AIFD florists to come work on the farm with you too on their weeks off when they're not producing, Cassie.
I actually offer that sometimes to people because I know how much people like to feel connected to the flowers and see the behind the scenes. So I have offered that to
that's great.
Yeah, so that's another thing that I do is just like sort of inviting people to kind of come and see the farm too.
That's neat. Okay, great. Let's move to South Central. And I'm so happy to meet Marisa Guerrero and have her here representing AIFD. She's a floral designer, educator, and flower shop owner who is very active in the floral community. Her shop, Debbie's Blooms, which of course I think is named after me, is a second generation store that caters to a wide range of customers with everyday and wedding designs. Hi, Marisa.
Hi there. I'm so excited to be with you guys.
Yeah, and let me introduce your team, your favorite local flower farmers, mom and daughter, Diane and Lillian Calhoun. You can find the gals at Calhoun Flower Farms. They also have two other cohorts, sisters, Susanna, and I guess Susanna. And then that's the three of you, right, on your farm.
Right.
And then
Emily started the flower farm, but she's now a designer in the Albuquerque.
Yes, and Emily Calhoun and I go way back. She was one of the first people to join Slow Flowers from New Mexico. So I'm happy to meet you through her. So they are at the spot where the Rio Grande, or is that how you say it? Rio Grande? Crosses from New Mexico into Texas, a fertile river valley bordered by desert landscapes. These fourth generation farmers supply field-grown flowers to local grocery and boutique markets and to florists in El Paso, Texas and southern New Mexico. So I'm thrilled that you're all here and we're excited to hear your conversation.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, I have so many notes already. I've almost filled up an entire page just on the conversations we have. So I know you guys are going to be awesome too, but I'm so excited to talk to you. These are our favorite local flower farmers. So I know that you guys are awesome and you're getting product ready for the new season, but how do florists and event designers kind of help guide you in what you're going to grow for a season? Do you care about our input? Do you want the input?
Gosh. And to start, we are just thrilled to be here. This is pretty exciting that the Southwest will be represented in a national conversation because we bring a lot to the table, but it's very different from what a lot of the other growers and designers are doing. We have quite the culture here, don't we, Marisa?
We do.
So thank you so much. Every single time a florist buys a local bloom, they absolutely influence the whole market because that's what we're about. And so every purchase helps that market move forward. But as far as being more specific about that, the more conversations that we can open up between the parties. And Marisa, you've been so wonderful. When we first contacted you several years ago, you were so excited and so enthusiastic, and the whole shop came out to the farm, and it's a trek. We're almost 40 miles apart, and as everything in the Southwest is in long distances, but it was just such a welcoming thing. And I think if all florists do that kind of thing, then we can do that. And we want to know what excites you. You know your customer base, you know what consumers are doing and wanting and what works for you. So talk to us about those things and we can then grow around that. We want to grow for you. So it just all works. It just works together so beautifully and we're just all happy for it. Did you notice on the pictures that Deborah did of all the flower farmers? Everyone is so joyful. And that helps us spread the joy on that.
Well, you guys are always joyful. I love it. Well, I know Cassie kind of talked or touched on this a little bit, but do you guys feel the same way? How far in advance do you want our flower orders for events? I know she mentioned being flexible and, you know, looking at product a week out so that we really know what's the most beautiful at that point. Is that what you're hoping for, a week out, or what's best for you guys?
We can forecast with fair accuracy 2 weeks out, and we could really do 3 weeks out. We've planned our planting schedule such that it aligns with the days to maturity kind of thing. So we know that we will have a certain number of blooms. For example, we now know that our florists in this area love sunflowers so much. So we're planning on having sunflowers every single week available from the time they first bloom until frost. So we've got those planting things going, but those conversations happened as a result of the experiences of selling to our clients and what they wanted. If you have something as a florist, a real special event coming down the pipeline that you know about in advance, 6 months in advance, farther, let us know, because how exciting that we could dedicate part of our farm to an event you've got coming and then come to fruition with something that is absolutely specially grown for that recipient.
I think something else to keep in mind is that farmers, a lot like florists for big events and things, we have to plan way in advance, right? The bloom doesn't come the day after we plant. So it helps, even if it's not specific, to learn about your style and or maybe the trends that you're focusing on this year. It helps us to figure out, okay, we need to try to plant more burgundy or whatever, so that we can help fulfill your orders as well. But naturally, as Cassie mentioned, with keeping Mother Nature in mind, and that you know, three cloudy days, maybe no sunflowers that week. So yeah, the flexibility as well as the conversations continuing.
Luckily, we don't ever have 3 cloudy days in a row.
Yeah,
It's not down where we are. So if florists and event designers and things want to base their design work around what's locally grown and seasonal, what advice do you have for them?
So what we've learned working in the dirt and walking through our fields is a lot of the theme that you're seeing, as Deborah and Cassie both mentioned, that ultimately Mother Nature is the best guide. And she's done a lot of the design work for you. And we like to say that what grows together goes together. And we find that to definitely be true, that whether it's the colors of the season or the flowers that align with the sentiment of that time, it all seems to work. So I think allowing Mother Nature and working with your flower farmer to align. The other aspect that we love is that it really, I think, gives the customer a sense of place. So every area, right, we're talking coast to coast, every area has that special something that makes it, it has that special nuance. And so what we've learned is that, for instance, in the Southwest, we've learned to be okay with the fact that we can't grow peonies. And
not really okay.
Not really okay, but we're learning, and really start to embrace the more drought tolerant plants. And we have been so excited to learn about the flowers that naturally grow in our area. And I think to reflect your location is just more aligning altogether.
And they always last better.
And they last better. Yeah.
So tell me what excites you guys about working with our local florists and designers.
Everything.
And I think other farmers are probably similar. We love experimenting. We love learning. We love seeing what we can do, how we can make the product better. So I think continuing the conversation with the florists in our area and getting to know them and what excites them about design work and about what we're doing as well, and continuing to work together. That is exciting, and to keep growing and learning from each other.
We see our florists have so many different styles, so we get to grow according to that. We say, oh, well, they like this, or Marisa orders things just for fun in almost every order, and that says, oh, we get to do some things. It's a guilty pleasure. You get the excuse to buy that packets of seed that you wanted to buy but didn't know if you really had a home for it. But when you have some creative people welcoming what you're doing, it justifies that, which is the best.
I'll take those fun flowers anytime. Well,
Oh my gosh, that's so fun.
You guys don't talk about it enough, but I think everybody should know that you guys are also fabulous floral designers. I mean, you put out spectacular floral work. So I'm so excited that we got to talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so
great.
much.
I didn't mean to cut you off, Marisa, but you raised an interesting point, and I think we're going to deviate from script here, and that is a lot of flower farmers do some design work. And I talked in my presentation about the farmer florist. And Marisa, I feel so encouraged that you don't view that as a competition or a threat. And can you just address that issue, why it you want to support them in either their growing or their designing?
It's especially this year, it's hitting home more than ever. I cannot handle every wedding in our area, nor am I the right style for everyone. And so in particular, Calhoun has an amazing style, and I just am always so impressed with what they're able to produce. And so I have no issue. Like, if that is not my style, these are your people. You need to go talk to them. I can't do it all. I'm not for everyone. And there are plenty of businesses and brides out there for all of us.
That's great. I'm happy to hear that. And I'm sure that you're referring business back and forth to each other because of that. Excellent. That's a very positive outlook, and I'm happy to hear it. Now we're going to come closer to my backyard. I live in Seattle, and I'm a huge customer of the Seattle Wholesale Growers Market. And I'm delighted to introduce our AIFD member and our Slow Flowers members. So first of all, my good friend Gina Thresher, AIFD and EMC. We live one town away from each other, and Gina owns and operates a floral studio called From the Ground Up Floral. She also has her own podcast and her media company, which isn't in her bio, but I'm going to brag on her a little bit. Gina loves local growers, the local growers market, and she's a passionate supporter of local flowers. She also grows a little bit herself. Hi, Gina. And
Hi.
and Gina's going to be interviewing my good pal, Brad Siebe. Brad is the general manager of the Seattle Wholesale Growers Market, a cooperative of flower growers who bring the best cut flowers, foliage, and plants in the Pacific Northwest to the floral marketplace. He has an extensive background in managing and building retail specialty nurseries and garden centers, and we've pulled him into the flower world. So since assuming the management at Seattle Wholesale Growers Market a little over a year ago, Brad has worked closely with the farmer owners of the Seattle Growers Market to serve the vibrant community of florists and designers who are in this region. So welcome, Brad. And I'm going to hand it over to Gina to conduct the interview.
Hi, Brad. It's very good to be here. I had to wait for the train to go by. That's why I waited so long to come off of mute. So I'm going to start out with my questions. I've got, let's see, the first one here. What are some ways florists can share their wish lists with growers? I know you guys have come up with a fantastic way to order online with the growers market. So could you elaborate a little bit of how that works out once you get orders?
Sure, absolutely. We issue a weekly fresh sheet that we send out via email to all of our customers, and we take a look ahead, and what we do, putting that together, we have all of our member growers put together their products for the week, and they anticipate harvesting, and their volume obviously subject to change because of Mother Nature, as discussed before, but they assimilate this list. We prepare a fresh sheet. with either good quantities, limited quantities, so forth like that, what we anticipate having available. And then we send that out, and then our customers then can take a look at that fresh sheet, and they can either email us their order, or we have an online entry form on our website. And shortly here this spring, we're going to be launching an online marketplace where people will be able to actually log in and order stuff directly online from us, which will really make an easier thing for everybody. So they can look ahead and see what's available for the week coming up on doing that. So that's one way that they can easily take advantage of what products coming in. And with the seasons changing so quickly here in the Northwest, and such a diversity of product that's available from our local farms, it's always changing. It's always something in motion, because there's always new crops coming on and old ones going off the list and so forth like that. And so it really is a dynamic list that's always constantly changing almost year round, because even during the winter months, we have some wonderful foliages and textural plants and stuff, you know, a lot of iconic Northwest product that is very unique to our region, that helps, you know, distinguish the florists.
And I think it really helps extend our season too. I remember back when there wasn't much to pick from at the market during those dark times of winter. But now coming into the market, it's amazing. It smells like Christmas. You get all the fresh cut greens, supplies for making wreaths, all that good stuff for seasonal. And that's what, you know, if you're buying locally and you're trying to promote the mentality of seasonality, you know, that's what you want to be buying. You want to be marketing your wreaths and selling products that are maybe a little bit more greenery focused. So I really love that you guys have expanded on that.
Well, the diversity of product that's available from our farms is just amazing. You know, we're fortunate in the Northwest here to have a very mild climate for most of the year. And our 15-member farms that we have here range from South Central Oregon clear up to almost the Canadian border in Blaine. So we have a very diverse climate range just within our member farms. So we're able to take advantage of that long window of harvest crops, that people can bring crops in that are, you know, maturing early in southern climates, where in the northern ones, those crops have already transitioned out. So, I mean, we can start providing, you know, like anemones or ranunculus in the springtime, and we can have them all the way up through almost through the end of June, because of just the range of our growers and the different.
Well, I feel like we get peonies for a longer window than everybody else too. Yes. It's like, it's fabulous. I love where we are. It's so great. I'm just going to brag a little bit. Yeah. And the dahlias, I mean, unparalleled. It's just amazing, like what we can do in our little area. All right, so the next question we have, let's see, how hard or easy is it to book a farm visit so people can visit these farms that things grow on? I do know that there was a farm tour a while back, and I've been at several of them, and it's a very enjoyable experience. Do we have anything like that available for the general public or coming up in the works?
Well, we did pre-COVID. Right now, we're waiting till see what develops with the COVID-19 situation. We're being optimistic that this year, with vaccines rolling out and everything for the general population, that at some point we might be able to resume those. But at this point in time, we haven't been. We've actually had to suspend a lot of those activities. In fact, a lot of the in-market training activities, we had to kind of retool that and pivot on how we did that, because we used to do a lot of in-house classes and teaching here at the marketplace. And so we ended up going virtual for a lot of those this past winter with Deborah for some of the presentations we did. So we are looking forward to that opportunity of being able to have those, you know, farm tours again for all of our member farms, people to get out and visit them. But like I say, at this point in time, we haven't really scheduled anything. So I guess have people stay tuned, and we'll be announcing it as soon as it's available. But like I say, right now we have a lot of farmers that are still waiting to even get their shots and so forth like that, and a lot of their workers and people like that. So it's going to be a little bit of a while. It's not going to be something I anticipate for the early spring season here.
Right, but those virtual design, the virtual classes, I think those are going to be a hit. I'm excited to see those kind of roll out as they start up again for the season. I think that's going to be really fun.
Yeah, we had a good success with those last year. We did a lot of the best of series where we featured on monthly crops and and presentations and featuring the farmers. And that's one nice thing about the market is that on the busy season on Wednesdays and other days of the week when the farmers are doing deliveries here, it's a chance for the designers to actually come in and meet the farmers, meet the members of the co-op, and talk a little bit more about their product, because like I say, there's so much unique offerings that they have. It's one way to have a florist distinguish yourself from a lot of different markets and floral products, because a lot of our farmers will specialize in stuff that's really unique to them, and their specialty crops that have really narrow windows. And a lot of our event people and our specialty studio florists like that, they've made those relationships with the farmers, and they know when those crops are coming on, and they're watching the fresh sheets for them. So sometimes, I hate to say it, but some crops are almost sold out before they even get to the market because there's such a demand for it.
That happened before. It's very true. It does happen. Yeah.
So that's one nice thing about, building that relationship with your local farmers and local markets is that's unique. Stuff that's large scale production, you don't get that diversity of product that you can through your local farms and local resources.
Awesome. I'm gonna have to mute myself. My children are right outside the front door here. Sorry.
Do you want me to jump in with a question, Gina, for Brad? One more before we wrap up?
Yeah, well, let's see. I had a couple more, but let's go with
Question for Brad. Do you guys ship?
We do a little bit of shipping, and we're going to be ramping up our shipping program this spring, this season. Once we get into the production season here, we'll be starting to ship a lot more out of our area. And that's one nice thing with our online marketplace that's going to be launching this spring, as we'll be able to, people out of the area can be able to shop online and purchase products from the market. And we do shipping typically through FedEx. So it's like typically like an overnight type thing, or express mailing out is how we are doing that currently.
Okay, Gina, do you have one more quick question, or shall I move on?
Sure, I have one more real. What would you say to newer florists coming into the industry? Like, what's a good way to get in touch? I mean, I've referred a lot of florist market super pro. As a florist, what would you suggest? Or, what kind of questions are you wanting them to ask you guys to sign up?
Okay, anybody can that has a business credentials, any person in the floral trade is welcome to become a member of our market. We generally have them fill out a buyer pass application, which is available on our website, which is www.seattlewholesalegrowersmarket.com. And you can fill out the application and you submit your business credentials, which is typically your business license. And if you're a business operating in the state of Washington, or Washington state reseller permit, and that way you're allowed to purchase product tax-free or tax-exempt, basically, from sales tax. So once those are submitted, then you're able to come in and shop at the market. Right now during COVID, we've been requesting or suggesting people do reservations for shopping, only because we're limiting the number of people on the floor at one time just for social distancing and also convenience, ease of checkout. So we are limited to 6 people right now, but you're welcome to fill out information, email us on questions you may have about the market, and we'll get back with you right away on those. We also like to recommend a lot of people that, if you're not sure what crops we have seasonally, we do have our own calendar we've developed here for American grown flowers. This is available on our website, and we also have copies here in the market. And what's nice about this is it's got a planning calendar for the whole year, which lists what seasons the crops come in availability on. So you can kind of see, if you're planning for events, you can kind of look in here and say, oh, dahlias are going to be available from June through September. Now, if we're fortunate, we don't have a hard frost or freeze, we can have those clear into November, but you never know what Mother Nature's going to do. And a lot of our members also are producing crops in high tunnels and in greenhouses, which gives them extended seasons. So we have shoulder seasons, early spring for peonies and late season for dahlias, for example. So those are things to keep in mind as well. The market's coming on its 10th year anniversary this year, and we're very proud that all of our members and what the product we have to offer here. And one of the things that's really unique about our market is that fact that we do a lot of trials. Our farmers really want to make sure that the products we're getting to our customers are the best. And so we've done extensive vase trials And we produce that information because locally, in all the different growing regions, there's a lot of different variances you're going to have climate-wise. And so that's something, work with your local farmers and your local growers on, because in each region of the United States, you're going to have different weather conditions, soil types, all these things. So working locally with your local suppliers, you'll get the best product that's going to last the longest. There's a unique product that has wonderful fragrance that doesn't ship long distances because it's either too fragile or that it just can't withstand the rigors of a shipping program, but you can buy it locally at your local farm or local wholesaler that provides local material that's very unique. And that's one of the greatest benefits of buying from your local farmers and helping support, their local economies. Our mission is to have all of our members become sustainable farmers. And that's one of our purposes here in educating the public and the consumers in that as well.
Yeah. You guys have amazing resources too. So if anybody needs to check out any questions you have on that, they have lots of those resources. I mean, the when stuff's available chart, that's a good one. I mean, if you're even just beginning, like just to know offhand, like what comes into season when, it's really a handy tool. So thank you for putting all that together. And I've actually heard about these Dahlia trials, and I need to put that together and get that out to the general public.
Yeah. Well, the Dahlia Trials is a really good one. And, there's certain values that work great for just events only, if you only need them for a one day. But if you're using them for a bouquet program, or if you've got weekly programs that you do out, there's certain varieties that really hold up and have longer vase life. So it's good to be aware of those things when you're ordering. And the same thing for foliages. We did extensive foliage trials just this last summer, and we were testing foliages that how long they can hold up in the hot sun and summer without any water. If you're doing large displays or arbor stuff where you don't have the fortunate ability to keep things hydrated all the time. And it was really interesting, the results that were compiled from that. And we like to share that with our customers as well, because that allows them to better gauge what products to be using in different situations, whether if you're outdoors in the sun or outdoors under cover. All those things really have to be factored in, because there's nothing worse than building a beautiful display and having something just totally crash on you just because you picked the wrong material.
Well, you're saving a lot of florists a lot of heartache. So
yeah, absolutely.
And
your farmers are the best ones to check with on that, because they grow it all the time.
We're going to move on, you guys. We have one more guest, and I just don't want to cut everybody. I hate to cut people off, but this is so great. I love hearing from Gina and what she's interested in. Brad, your wealth of information. Thank you so much. But Renee and I invited Amelia Ihlo from Rooted Farmers to provide kind of a different perspective as another way florists can connect with farmers. And I want to introduce Amelia. She is the founder of Rooted Farmers, and she is also a flower farmer herself, owner of Reverie Flowers based in Edna, New Hampshire. In 2019, Amelia founded Rooted Farmers, an innovative online marketplace that connects local flower farmers and floral designers. Rooted has set out to simplify the process of purchasing local and seasonal blooms, and it helps flower growers save time in the selling process while ultimately connecting farmers with wholesale and retail buyers. So, Amelia, thanks for waiting to wrap it up. You're our capstone speaker here, and I just have a couple questions for you. Do you want to just quickly talk about? You're going to put up a little PowerPoint, right, and talk a little bit about Rooted? Should we do that first?
I was going to actually share my screen and I can do a demo, because I feel like that's probably the easiest visual.
Yeah, why don't you talk about the platform and how it's a selling tool for flower farmers, and then also how florists can plug in.
Yeah, absolutely. I will do that now. So we started Rooted in, can everybody see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, good. We started Rooted in 2019, and it really was born out of, our pain points that we were feeling here locally, where I run a flower farm myself. I also run a collective here in Northern New England, and we supply the Boston market. And so we really were struggling with kind of this process of communicating with our florist buyers and how to actually do that in a way that didn't have us up until 2 a.m. managing availability lists and dealing with kind of the more traditional ordering channels, I think, for local flowers. So we started with a really bare bones website and got tons and tons of feedback, and then launched out nationally last year. And kind of, fast forward to today, And this is where we are. So we essentially, we're kind of looking at the Shopifys of the world and seeing a lot of issues with how they operated, and that they really weren't intended to support sales of perishable products in general, but really specifically flowers and specialty cut flowers. I think when you're trying to sell these types of items, there are a lot of layers of information that are really important for everybody to be really clear on that that whole purchase process. And so we really set out to try to address all of those issues, because when we sat down with all of our florists and said, you know, we have this great product, we want to work with you. How do we actually do that in a way that works with your business? Because all of you are running these small businesses. Also, it's really important that we're not trying to make you change the mold and you know, kind of rebuild the wheel here. We want to make this work around your business and how you think about flowers and how you think about working with small farms, because often we are selling product that just simply isn't available through a lot of distributors and a lot of wholesale channels. You know, we're selling things that are different and they're unique, and maybe the florist has never heard of them or never worked with them before. And so they might have questions that are different from what you might have if you're buying the same tulips that you've bought every year since forever. You know, this is going to be different product, and you're going to have different questions. So when we set out to build Rooted, we were just B2B. That was really what our focus was. In other words, just farms to florists. And last year kind of did a little pivot because we got a lot of requests from growers who really wanted to be able to supply all of their sales channels through the exact same interface. In other words, I didn't have to maintain 5 different availability lists and think about my sales from all of these different perspectives. I could just have one place where I'm controlling all of my product. This is our developer site here, so you can see there's some prices. These are very expensive tulips. We are not going to sell our tulips for $20 a stem. But we think about our product in kind of 2 different categories. One is hidden. These are things that I'm not actively selling, and then the other is visible. And these would be things that if I was not living in the middle of northern New Hampshire and actually didn't have snow on the ground, I would have these things. So these are my kind of visible products. And when we're thinking about our inventory, you know, there are a lot of different ways that we can slice and dice it. And I might have different questions that I'd want to ask myself about product at any given point. I might be looking for a specific daffodil and wonder, you know, what I have in my system for all of my daffodils, so I can do a search through all of my daffodils. And then if I am not finding what I'm actually looking for, sorry, my internet is super slow here. We are in rural New Hampshire. I can go ahead and add a new item. So if I'm adding a new item, I'm doing it, you know, this was an important piece that was really informed by our florists. So when we talk to the florists about where the communication breakdowns often happen with farmers, it can happen because as a farmer, I'm referring to something in a Latin name maybe, and as a florist, you maybe are referring to it as a common name, or maybe you're not entirely sure what you're looking for, but you're actually wanting to search by design element, or so for focal flowers or filler flowers or foliage, or maybe you're wanting to search by color palette. So the way that the system works is we'll just pick Cafe au Lait's here. You have the ability, you're uploading all of your own products, images here. This is our developer site, so you can see some of our developers added their hiking pictures. We'll give them a hard time for that later. But you can use all these fields to really describe your product. So the description field is really helpful. We find that a lot of our dahlia growers get really descriptive with how they describe these flowers and like the emotional impact that these dahlias can have on you. Whereas other flowers, so I might use this to really clarify if I'm selling my foxglove, for example, and I know that this is the appropriate stem length range, I might say these are first cuts. And they're really most around 22 inches long. And that's how I might use that. So those types of like pieces of information we, in talking with all of our florists, found were really, really critical for them to understand. And we had to streamline how we as farmers were sharing that information. We have some really cool tools that I think are going to help both the florists and the farmers this year. We have pricing information, which is all supported from our own data, which is generated from all of our sales last year. So if we had a farmer who was coming on and they were going to list their cafe au laits at $2 a stem, they'd get an alert that says this is lower than we'd expect to see for this flower. And that's based off of sales around the country. And the same thing would be the case for, you know, if I priced it too high. You as a florist don't want to have to go through this back and forth with your farms and say, gosh, that's really higher than I would expect to see. And so we just put this in here to help them catch. And that can also help with mistakes, because in our collective, we see that sometimes where somebody misses a decimal point. So instead of pricing by stem and, you know, they're meaning to price it at, you know, $1 a stem, they maybe missed a decimal point. And so this can help catch just simple mistakes, which just saves you so much time, both on the florist side and on the farmer side. You're then selecting your color. This is really helpful as you as a florist are trying to search on your side. And you're also able to input information here. So especially with those varieties that are really different, things that maybe a florist hasn't seen a lot of, things that maybe growers are experimenting with, that you're not quite as familiar with. There are often questions around vase life, something new these florists maybe don't know. Can I expect this to be good still for my wedding that I have on Saturday or my brunch on Sunday morning if I'm taking delivery for it on Wednesday? Those pieces of information just really, really were critical. And then bloom size also, because as you can tell from this image here, you cannot tell easily if these are little tiny dahlias that are maybe like 1.5 inches in diameter, or if they're like, you know, bigger and actually 4 or 5 inches in diameter. So you have the ability to add in things like bloom size. And what we found was that by clarifying all of these things, florists were so much more excited and willing to buy local flowers, because all of their questions that they had about these new items that they were experimenting with were answered there. And so what we did on the back end, as we continued to iterate on this, is that every single one of these listings that you see here, that you as a farmer would choose from, that any of your growers would choose from, that you're working with here, these all have lots and lots of information that are tied to them on the back end, where we're putting that in. So anytime we add a new listing to the database, we're telling them, you know, we're telling the system, what types of design elements are these? Is this a foliage? Is this a disc flower? Are these spikes? Are these, you know, airy elements? And so what that allows is for you as the florist to say, I'm looking for a spike flower, I'm looking for a focal flower. And then every single listing in the system that, you know, is populated from your growers comes up for that type of search. So as growers, it really kind of streamlines the process of listing inventory, and so that you're left with something that's really easily digested, and you're able to set your availability in a way that makes sense for you. You know, as Cassie was saying, they sell a week out. So if you want to sell for just the next week, you can do that. I clicked that too quickly. So if you want to sell for just the next week, you can do that. If you want to actually sell, like our down south ladies were saying, if you want to sell for the next 2 or 3 weeks, you can do that. So you're just setting the dates that actually work for your farm, whatever makes sense for your farm and whatever makes sense for your relationships with those buyers, you're able to do that. Yes, I'm sure I want to update all of my listings, or maybe I want to go back and I want to just allow for only my peonies, because those are the only ones that I'm sure I'm going to have over the next 3 weeks. And so I can really differentiate by item there.
Amelia, can you, we're kind of running short on time. Can you just show what it will look like when the florist comes to Rooted Farmers, and talk about how florists can sign up to shop on your site?
Definitely. Yeah. So the one thing I have to show you before I hop over to that florist view is how I think about my florists and how you florists are all represented for me. So although retail is represented here, you know, I have it turned off right now. I work with all my retail customers in one place, but my wholesale customers, each of those relationships is really important to me. So I think about them differently. They're in different locations. I'm going to allow for different delivery settings and pickup settings for each of these different people. This person is down in Boston, so I'm going to charge her $20 and only offer delivery once a week. And then you can see some of these other folks. Petals is right down the street from me. I'm going to not charge her anything, or I'll charge her a $5 fee for delivery, and I'll offer her delivery and pickup options every day of the week. So I'm going to move over here to this buyer here, and you can see these are the settings that I have for her. And so now I'm going to be the flour mill here. And so this is how the flour mill is looking at all of the product that I listed out. And so she can see, you know, what's really important to her if she wants to blow up the photo, because it's really important to her to actually see, I don't want to see the thumbnail. I want to see what this tulip actually looks like that I've never bought. And does this fit into the arrangement I'm looking for? I want to see, maybe I'm looking for a specific color palette, and I'm really wanting to find all of the items that fit into these colors. And then I decide, actually, I really don't want that color. And so I'm able to search by color, or I can search by design element. So for our florists, you know, if they're specifically looking for foliage, they're able to see all the foliage really quickly. If they're looking to put together a local arrangement where they're pulling in filler flowers and focal flowers, and then they also really want to find within a color palette, they can do that really, really quickly. And so it's just a very simple process for all of these buyers. And what we found was that it saves so much time on everybody's side. It saves so much time on the farmer side. The farms were able to process, all of our active farmers were able to process twice as much volume in half as many administrative labor hours. And at the same time, these florists were so excited about buying local, because suddenly they had what they're all describing as Amazon for local flowers, which I think I could probably argue that either way. I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but it makes it, I think it really validates this thesis that it's just super, super simple. And then if they want more granular detail, they can kind of click in here. It deals with all of the logistics at the same time. So if they're trying to place an order for these tulips, when they go to add it to their cart, they're selecting whatever you gave them. So these are the options that we had given to this florist for her delivery. They're just adding it to their cart. They're selecting it there. They can go through and they can shop from, this is what their view looks like if they're shopping from your farm or from lots of farms. And so they can do, you know, it works really well with a collective, it works really well with an individual farm. And it's just a super flexible system that's built specifically around flowers, which just kind of, I think, allows everybody to really focus on what they add value at and where, you know, where you do your best work, and offload all of the stuff that none of us like dealing with in the ordering flowers process.
Thank you so much. I wish we had more time, but this is a sort of a teaser. And I know also, Amelia, your contact information will be in the material that Renee sends out, so that you're open to people contacting you directly for demos. And this has just been a great sample to illustrate how your platform works for farmers and growers, and also for florists. So I think,
and also one last thing. So it is free for florists. So there's no charge for any of the florists to join. So you do, you know, just like Brad was saying, we do ask for you to submit reseller certificates to make sure that we're covered on the sales tax front. But there is no cost to actually joining.
Thanks. I'm sorry I didn't bring that up, but that is enticing. And we've got so much information that we shared today. So I'm going to bounce this back to you, Renee, and maybe we'll have to do this again.
Oh my goodness, it was a lot. It was wonderfully a lot. Yeah. And really so interesting to hear the 3 different perspectives across the country. Thank you so much, everyone, for what you've shared. We had a few questions pop up throughout the hour, but we've got those answered. So I think the only matter of business left is to, drum roll, give away Deborah's book. So right before we came on here, I drew a name from all of the pre-registered attendees. And Deborah, do you want to hold the book up?
Yes, and I just put my email address in the chat box too.
Okay, great. So the winner of Deborah's book is, I hope I'm going to say this right, Kim Obregon. So Kim, I see you're still on the attendee list here.
Great.
So check out the chat box and grab Deborah's email address. If you could connect with her, she'll get that book shipped out to you. So I think that's all I have. One real quick, panelists, if you could just smile for the camera, we have to do the obligatory Zoom webinar photo. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, good, thank you. So as I mentioned, I'll be emailing everyone with the link, everyone's contact information. If you want to reach out to any of us, we're open books. I think you got that message here tonight. Anybody else have anything? Okay, thank you so much, everyone. This was such a pleasure. Have a great night and keep in touch on the socials.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, thank you.
Thanks, bye.